Shalom, everybody. Welcome back to the Baal Sulam's Matan Torah with commentary by Rabbi Abraham Mordechai Gottlieb. I'll be referring to as always as the Rebbe Shlita. We are on page 129, section 28. I'm just going to have the chat open here in case anyone tunes in and wants to ask questions as the class goes on. I'll be periodically checking there. Last class we spoke about in detail the difference between being a kingdom of priests, which we clarified is the work, and being a holy nation, which is the reward. So to continue, the header reads, so long as the nations of the world are still incapable of cleaving to God, Israel must serve as a treasured nation. What does it mean to be treasured? We also clarified that. We've spoken about it, but there's different definitions for the word segula. The Baal HaSulam begins, now we can fully appreciate also our words prior to this. For scripture says, quote, and now if you'll indeed listen to my voice, and if you will keep my covenant. Which means making a covenant on what I'm telling you here. That is, you will be a treasure for me among all peoples. This means that you will be a treasure for me, for you will cause sparks of refinement and purification of the body to pass to all the peoples and nations of the world. For the nations of the world are not yet ready for it, being full purification at all. And I need one nation, at least to start with now, so it will become a treasured nation, or become a treasure among all the nations, and remedy for them. As a segula also means a remedy. An example, there are many segulot, many formulas, so to speak, things, actions, whether it's reading certain orders of Psalms, being Tehillim, or learning certain matters, certain Masechtot in the Talmud, so on and so forth. There's a lot of things that can connect us to certain channels to bring particular abundance, specific things. For example, going to a tzaddik, going to a master, a sage of spirituality in itself is a remedy, it's a segula for anything being related to our inner work, as we can open ourselves up and request a guidance from them. An example would be Rabbi Kanievsky Shlita, who is regarded as the prince of Torah in this generation. Being a sage himself, he opens up his home in his altruistic intention to sometimes hundreds of people throughout a day who come to receive his blessing. So he gives them a blessing of bua, in short, blessing and success, bracha v'hatzlacha. But he's shortened it to bua because when you go through hundreds of people, you're in your 90s, you have the same intention and it saves energy. So it's a good move. Anyway, there's many, many famous stories about the power of his blessing. And a particular one is one of a couple who had trouble conceiving. So they went to Rav Kanievsky and asked for a blessing. And instead of giving them a standard bua, he gave them bua, bua, bua. And the next time that they conceived, Baruch Hashem, thank God that they conceived afterwards. I'm not sure what the time frame in between was, but the pregnancy was that of triplets. Now this is a miraculous story that incites, at least for myself, inspiration as to what is possible for a human being to reach. All the more so those who are connected to such amazing Torah as the one we're learning now, being the Torah of the rabbis of A쉬ragu, who are also at the highest levels of refinement possible. So they are relative to us in terms of learning. Their Torah can also be regarded as a segula. At least for myself, obviously in my bias, it's a treasured Torah. But it's also segula for me because it provides me the tools, it provides me the remedies, so to speak, to discover myself, discover the evil within, meaning my ego, and be aware of it. And if I see the truth, I should be very happy. And therefore I can continue slowly but surely. And that's an aspect of Adar, which is the month we are now in. We say, when Adar enters, we shall increase in joy. Why do we increase in joy? The pshat, the simple interpretation, is that in the time of Purim, in the time of Esther Amalka, Esther the queen, and Mordechai Tzaddik, Mordechai the righteous one, we were victorious. We were not annihilated by the Holocaust that Haman had planned for us. We were saved by the hand of the Creator. And so we celebrate. But we can also celebrate that every day of the year, every minute of our lives, really. So what's going on is, in essence, the happiness of truth. There's a certain aspect of Adar, a certain, you could say perhaps a remedy, a segula, as we're learning here. There's a certain light that allows us to see more of the truth within ourselves. Meaning we see more of the darkness within ourselves. So why should we increase happiness? Because we see the truth. And we can't progress forward without the truth. So when we see the truth of ourselves, we should be dancing with joy. I've heard this from many people in my time in yeshiva, at least. Many guys were so confused. They're like, Adar's supposed to be such a happy time, and they all fell down. They were like beating themselves up for things that they were doing. But this is why. There's a certain aspect of Adar that illuminates more so within, so that we can, with the Creator's help, see the truth. So we are supposed to be a remedy to the nations. And therefore the verse ends, as the Baal Shem continues, for all the earth is mine. Meaning, all the peoples of the earth belong to me, just as you do. And they are all destined to cleave to me. Meaning, all of the nations of the world, every single Tselem Elokim, everyone who's made in the image of the Creator, is destined to live a corrected reality. Perfect, unified consciousness with the Creator. It doesn't make sense to say otherwise. The logical deduction of a Creator whose core desire is to give goodness to creation, and all of the creation is only in order to do this, and all its myriad detail is simply to give goodness to creation. If that's the case, then we have to conclude that every single individual, every single Ben Adam that's made in his image, is destined to achieve perfection. Otherwise, he wouldn't be manifesting his desire to give goodness. Of course, it's relative to our work. Now, earth, I don't recall the exact Hebrew here, but regardless, any mention of earth, whether it's a reference to Eretz, being land, or Hadama, which is also land, but earth more specifically, is referring to our desires. Sometimes different parameters, being the desire to give or the desire to receive, but mostly receiving. Haaretz, the land, is the receiver, just as Shemayim, the heavens, rain down and provide abundance for the land. Therefore, Shemayim, the heavens, is considered the aspect of giving, our soul, so to speak, and Eretz is regarded as the receiver, the body of our soul, so to speak, the receiving aspect. But Eretz is Melashon Ratzon. The land is from the language of desire. So for the Creator to say, for all the earth is mine, is really to say, all the myriad of desires are still under my umbrella. I am the ruler of the universe and all of its myriad details. So even that which seemingly looks dark and looks not to be in correspondence with the Creator is in fact His. All the earth is mine, meaning all the ratzonot, all the desires. The desire to give, for sure, because that's the only thing the Creator has. But the desire to receive is also the creation, which is rooted in His thought of creation. It's rooted in the Ein Sof Baruch Hu. Because His desire to give goodness to creation assumes a vessel. You can't give goodness to creation if there was no desire to receive. And because all the nations of the world are representing the different desires to receive within ourselves, for all the earth, meaning all the ratzonot within, to be His, it's meaning to say even our desires to receive will be corrected and will be towards Him, just like the priests have no rishus, they have no domain of their own. Their only domain is the Creator. They're only in divine service. No property of their own, rather they serve in the Holy Temple in order to bring abundance to all via the Creator's hand. So too, we are to do the same thing for the nations. We are to be a kingdom of priests. But all the earth is His, meaning all the desires are His, all the nations are His, all the desires to receive are also under His umbrella, because all the desires to receive will also be corrected and reach the highest state of receiving in order to give. I think this is also hinted by the revival of the dead, as we learn. The revival of the dead, says the Rebbe Shita, is not a zombie movie. Perhaps one can believe that the future great miracle, akin to the receiving of the Torah or the splitting of the sea, the miracle that we are to witness in the future is the revival of the dead. People coming out somehow, some way, and making their way, crawling or swimming over to Eretz Yisrael. I think the more practical interpretation that we understand through the Chochmat HaEmet, the wisdom of truth, is the revival of our dead desires. The Creator is the life of all lives, so to have life means to be connected to Him. To be connected to Him, to have adhesion to Him, means to be giving. Tvekut is similarity of form. Adhesion with Him is a similarity of character. So to have a difference of form or a dissimilarity of form instantly disconnects us from Him. So relative to having life, being connected to the tree of life, the life of all lives, being disconnected is to be dead. So the revival of the dead is also meaning to say that all the earth will be in mine. All the desires to receive will be converted into being receiving in order to give at the end of time. The Gemara Tikkun, once we are corrected. It said that Chazal were at the highest levels of spirituality, as the spiritual roadmap in ethical practice, as described in Mesilas Yesharim, from the sage of the Talmud, being Rabbi Pinchas ben Yair. So he says that the highest level is revival of the dead. Now, one can believe surely that Chazal, the spiritual sages of the Zohar and the Talmud, were able to literally revive the dead. It says in the Midrash that Yeshua, though he is Rabbeinu Yoshua, but Yoshua ben Nun, the successor to Moshe Rabbeinu, stopped the sun. The Rebbe Shita has said that when someone is in devekus, when someone is in absolute, total, and utter unity of consciousness with the Creator, then the Creator's will becomes their will, so to speak. So to have pure intention, because one is a perfect vessel, and to affect time and space, even though it sounds so superhuman, like a superhero even, it's not so out of the ordinary when we contemplate the greatness of those ancient masters, which are supposed to be, to a degree, incomprehensible to us, as it's so far beyond us. But more recently, being Chazal, being able to revive the dead, we have several cases in Tanakh of great prophets reviving the dead. But that's a digression, because the more practical interpretation is what we have here. Reviving the aspects of our ego, reviving our will to receive for itself alone. At the end time, once we've already reached tzaddikhood, which we've already reached, giving to give, eventually to be able to receive in order to give, which is the highest level. Because that's fulfilling the purpose of creation, of his desire to give goodness to creation. So to say that Chazal were able to revive the dead, I think more practically, is meaning to say that the sages were able to revive not only the desires within them, meaning they were at their own Gemar Tikkun, they could also receive goodness in order to give. It is said of Rabbi Yehuda Nasi, the redactor of the Mishnah, that he was amongst the richest in the generation. I've heard numbers in yeshiva, something like $500 million worth today, something like this. And despite having such massive wealth, it is said that he never purchased anything for himself, meaning all of his money was only used for the sake of heaven, for mitzvahs, for feeding the poor, for the honor of Shabbos, so on and so forth. Meaning he was at the level of receiving to give. He was receiving such abundance and was able to use it effectively. So there's the case of Rabbi Yochanan and Reish Lakish. It says in the Talmud, Reish Lakish being a great sage, but before, he was a master bandit. If I'm not mistaken, he was a leader of a bandit group. In the midst of his travels, he sees a beautiful woman from afar bathing in the river. With his great desire, as he had a huge desire to receive, he had a superhuman feat of leaping an amazing gap, leaping an amazing bound, just to make it over to the area, to speak to, I assume, attempt to seduce the woman, perhaps. And Rabbi Yochanan witnessed this amazing feat, this superhuman manifestation of a person's desire, a person's ratzon, somehow affecting physical reality in a superhuman way. So he makes it to the woman, and it turns out that the woman who's bathing is none other than Rabbi Yochanan. It's said that he was beautiful of form. And perhaps from afar, maybe he had long payas, I don't know. Perhaps it looked as though he was a woman. And Rabbi Yochanan provides Reish Lakish an offer. He says, if you become my student and take on the Torah and the mitzvot, I have someone much prettier than I that you can marry, my sister. And Reish Lakish agrees. And he goes on to become one of the greatest sages of that generation. And he becomes a learning partner, not just a student, but a learning partner, really a sparring partner who can go back to back with the knowledge and greatness of Rabbi Yochanan, who was also one of the greatest. This is an example of the revival of the dead. Rabbi Yochanan revived the dead that was Reish Lakish before his tshuva, before his returning, and he brought him the Torah and mitzvot. I believe this is a practical interpretation of the revival of the dead, and so too it should be a practical understanding of what we are to embody as a Jewish people for the nations, being that first and foremost we have to revive the dead within us and reach such exalted levels as a community, as Klal Yisrael, and then we can revive the world, so to speak, as all the earth is mine, all the earth is the Creator's. So all the ratzonot, all the artzot, all the lands, meaning all the desires to receive, should also be sanctified to him and must be corrected. And we are the remedy to do that. Because we have the tools. We were chosen to have the tools. No other nation had the means or had the refinement, whether by merit of their ancestors or the like. So that is our destiny. The Bala Sunnah begins, but now, so long as they are still incapable of performing that task, I need a treasured nation. And if you agree to be the treasured one among all the nations, I command you to be for me a kingdom of priests, which is the quality of loving the other in its final form of v'ahavta lirecha kamocha, and love your fellow as yourself. This is the pivot of the entirety of the Torah and the mitzvot, which is the essence of all these essays of Matan Torah, is that loving your fellow as yourself is the ultimate end goal of our work. It is the prize, so to speak. To be able to love the neighbor or the fellow as yourself is actualizing a holy nation. To be truly holy is to love any other person as if they were you. And a holy nation, says the Baal Sulam, is the reward in its final form of and to cleave to God. Tveikut, adhesion, which includes all the reward that can possibly be expressed. Because all the schar, the reward that we should be asking for, it's available for us to demand from the Creator to reward us for all of our Torah, mitzvot, and masim tovim, our good actions and the like, with this higher desire. Reward me with the desire to give. Reward me with emunah, with the ability to nullify myself, with humility. The Rebbe Shita has said so eloquently recently that the Torah is for Rishayim, quoting the Rebbe Zatzal in that regard. But his language even more so in this generation, the Torah is for losers. Why? If I'm a winner, if I'm successful, if everything's going well, if I'm not feeling lack within myself, in terms of spiritual work, I'm sick. If I don't see the truth that I'm a complete egoist and I need to correct myself, I'm very far from my goal. So the Torah being the tools and means to refine oneself and to merit, zechut, meaning hizdachachut, the merit which is the refinement of coming to a higher nature, can only be done if we see that truth within ourselves. And the Torah helps unveil that truth more so. But only if we feel ourselves to be losers, feel ourselves to be wicked, in the truth of our complete egoism, then we get everything. Then the Torah is revealed to us. Then we cleave to the Creator, because in those places, in the darkness of seeing the truth of self, we can dance and be happy that we see the truth and truly cry to the Creator, like Rachel Imenu, Rachel, our mother, the wife of Yaakov Avinu, who cried out from the depths of her heart and asked the Creator to give her sons, or else she is dead. Sons are the aspects of giving, because children are the actions and thoughts are the parents, because thoughts beget action, the same way parents beget children. So in spiritual language, to say a ben, to say a son, means to say giving, means to say positive actions that are in line with the Creator's character. So to be like her and say, give me sons, give me acts of true giving, allow me to be free from the putrid ego that you've given me, or else I'm dead. Because by definition, if I can't get over this and have sons, if I can't have true acts of giving and true intention with my Torah and mitzvot, then by definition, I'm removed from you. So I'm already dead. So give me life. This is all the reward that we can possibly imagine, is to reach that exalted state. And that is why the Torah is only open and revealed to those that see the truth. The Rebbe Zatzal had a very small, intimate group of students and followers. And there was a time where there was a large wave of Balei Tshuva, those who came back to their roots, particularly from the Kabbalah Center, as that was a branch of A쉬ragu learning that was disconnected large in part by Torah and mitzvot, more specifically the halachic implications that entails. And so students of the Rebbe Zitzal were sent there to remind the students, remind even the teachers there, that the tradition from the Baal Shalom still exists. His son is open and ready to teach those who want to take on the Torah in its entirety. Because to follow the Torah is to follow both the hidden and the revealed, the soul and the body of the Torah. To follow one side is not following the Torah. It's following half of it, so to speak. Because it must be done with action and intention. So he couldn't just take anyone off the street. So his way of testing if a potential student and follower was worthy of being within his Beit Midrash, of his study hall, he would say, this Beit Midrash is for Rishayim. This study hall is only for wicked people. So those who would think falsely of themselves as being already tzaddikim, or being great, being men of refinement, power, and ability, said, Russia, me? Wicked? Those obviously did not merit to be in the Beit Midrash. But those that understand what he meant, being this Torah, the Torah as a whole, all the more so this Torah that reveals the truth about oneself and gives us the tools to see the truth, that's why this Beit Midrash is only for those individuals. Individuals who could stomach such a statement and could see the truth in that statement, understood that on one parameter, yes, they were wicked because we're all complete egoists, then they came in. But it should be clarified that despite the truth of our absolute ego, at the same time we must walk the middle line. Because to see the truth of ourselves and to reflect on this portion is the left line. And it should only be coming into the left line from the right, meaning we should feel a sense of happiness and perfection and completion, shleimus. And from that place, we can enter into the left. If we start off our day on the wrong foot, and things are not going so well, we're on a bad mood, we're already in a relatively sad state, so to speak, it's forbidden for us to be in the left line. Because we'll just go left, 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 and we'll start manifesting very lowly, forbidden things, being depression, anxiety, and the like, God forbid. So we must enter into the left from already a state of happiness. And as mentioned earlier in the class, the notion of Adar, when we see the truth, when that evil is illuminated within, we should be happy. So really we should always be happy. And that is an avoda, that is very difficult. But to feel the sense of completion, to see the truth of our ego, and to be happy that we can see it, reverts us back to the right, so to speak. So we go right, left, or right. Really, we're in the middle. Tov. We should be zoche. We should be able to merit and refine to slowly but surely get to these levels together. Next section is section 29, top of page 130. This is the last section of Ha'arvut. It also has questions for review. We'll see based on time if we'll do a separate class to summarize the section with the questions for review. Tov. I see that there's no questions or comments. Thank you to those who are watching. Great pleasure to learn this with you. Happy to receive any feedback. My email is in the description, adampolanovsky@gmail.com. And let your family and loved ones and friends know about the class so that we can slowly but surely spread the goodness, spread these notions of truth. The Rebbe Shita has mentioned recently the great importance of consciousness being specifically visualization, contemplation. Truth is, that's a very popular notion in the nations of the world, with all the New Age movement and all the personal development, self-awareness courses, classes, and the like. And relatively speaking, the Jewish community is extremely removed from these ideas when it is so natural to our tradition. Not to say that there aren't leaders and rabbis and the like that do teach it and speak about it. There are. But it's of such importance that we need to speak about it more. We need to remind ourselves that we are all interconnected in consciousness. And the Baal Shem Tov says we are where our thoughts are. So when we think good, all the more so of the other, and wish them well and think of their positive aspects as opposed to their negative aspects, we bring abundance not only to ourselves, but therefore to the whole world, because we're all part of it. You change one piece of the puzzle, you change the whole puzzle. So it's important throughout the day, ideally at every moment, but slowly but surely, if we can at different times throughout the day, to take a pause and to just close our eyes and to contemplate, meditate on the greatness of the Creator, His infinite, incomprehensible love for us, even as an individual. To contemplate that I am a soul, my ultimate essence is my nefesh elokis, my godly soul. And I am truly eternal, and I'm actually perfect in essence. And I'd like to unveil that. So on and so forth. These are also machshavet emunah. These are thoughts of emunah. And they need to be practiced. It's an avodah, it's a work. It's not simple to do, but it's simple in theory. It's in the aspect that the Ramchal says in the introduction to Masilas Yesharim, the path of the just, the path of the upright. And he's referring to the notion of cheshbon nefesh, self-accounting and reflection, working on oneself, musar in Hebrew. And he says the matter is so simple, so understood, that it's forgotten about. Even the great scholars and sages of the generation that he lived in were not partaking in this most important task of self-reflection and self-accounting, soul accounting, because it's such a simple matter that it's assumed to be a given. Of course, I'm already there. I already practiced this, even though I don't. Emunah, faith is a poor translation, but that's the best English translation. Emunah is embodying his desire to goodness to creation. When we experience the opposite, when we're annoyed, sad, angry, when we're feeling negative emotions that are not in line with the Creator, we need to employ the emunah of it's all for the good. Not only is it for the good, it is good. Because He is Hatova Meitiv. He is the good that does good, to the good and to the bad. It's only goodness that is being drawn from Him. So it's above my das, it's above my knowledge and my logic. So I have to, relatively speaking, as much as it hurts my ego to say, throw my mind out the door and say, it is what it is. It's for the good. It is the good. We need to justify the actions of the Creator, because everything that happens is from the Creator. That, the Baal Shalom says, is a tzaddik. One who justifies everything from the Creator. When Aaron Cohen heard the news of his precious, righteous sons being incinerated, so to speak, by the Creator, Nadav and Avihu, he was silent. Perfect example of justifying the action of the Creator. Not to say we shouldn't mourn, but in his incomprehensible spiritual level, he understood this is the way it is. The Creator did it, I have to justify it. It's for the best. It is the best. So we have to think about it. We have to sit and actually contemplate and practice emunah. We have to practice visualization and positive thinking, because we are where our thoughts are. we really bring ourselves into that moment, and we can bring great shefa and abundance into our lives, into the whole world. It's a simple reminder to do something so simple. And I think as we, as a Jewish people, connect to these fundamental aspects that we forget all so often, more and more, then we'll also be a light unto the nations. Because they have been very familiar with such notions, the law of attraction, think well and it'll be well, think about certain things you want and it'll manifest into reality, work on oneself and manifest the best for yourself. So the Rebbe Shita says, our course here is the opposite. Their self-development is a matter of growing oneself and developing the self to the point of really your ego is being grown. We are trying to develop ourselves in the opposite manner, to become more humble, to realize the darkness within ourselves, to become more wicked, not in the sense that we're doing wicked things, but realizing just how egoistic we are, becoming more of a loser, meaning to realize truly how far we are from the goal and how lazy we are in intention in our action. So we're going this way and they think they're going that way. But when we blow ourselves and attempt to become nothing, to become Ephes, zero, as we are in relation to the Creator, then we become a perfect vessel. Because where is the place with nothing? Everything. The Ein Sof. We get filled with all of it. The Creator Himself rests within our consciousness when we can reach the exalted state that is nothingness, of being nothing. So, slowly but surely. Until next time.